is not going to be joining us
This
this
meeting
evening.
is being recorded.
No,
He's what? I'm sorry.
he's not going to be joining us this evening. He's doing fine,
Okay.
but not going to be joining us this evening. So let me take a moment and take a breath. And recognize that there is only God. God is in the air. That which I breathe in and that which I breathe out. God is in and through and has everything that exists. So when I feel the wind blowing on my skin, I know that that is God. And my skin that it is blowing against is God. And so with God everywhere present, in and through and as us all, I speak my word for this meeting, knowing that it is absolutely blessed that God is expressing through me, through each of us here in what we say and what we hear. And we go away from here with an expanded awareness of who we are in this moment and every moment. And so I give thanks as I release this prayer into the law that just says yes, knowing it is done. And so it is.
So it is.
Awesome. I have a window right here that I can look out, and it's cracked open so that there's light, but there's not, people can't see in, but I see puppy feet walking by and then the owner walking by. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, it's like, okay, if I look, I can see who it is, but it's interesting to catch puppy feet out of my eye, or the corner of my eye. So today, this whole month for Centers for Spiritual Living, the theme is home. And I thought about it and read the information that they have for this particular week, which is all about the hero's journey. And I don't know if y'all are real familiar with the hero's journey or you're not familiar with the hero's journey, but the idea is that the hero, the person, leaves their childhood home, goes away, has a huge number, according to this, there's 12 stages in the progression of the journey, from getting prepared and actually leaving and, and so on and so forth. And then all the challenges that are going on. And then you complete all of those challenges and return home. And as you return home, you are not the same person that you are when you walked out the door. The example they gave was, of course, the Wizard of Oz. Now, I don't know about you, but so far I have not yet received my ruby slippers anywhere in my journey. Have you? Have you gotten yours yet? Oh, you've got yours? Well, okay, Kevin. It's like I'm not surprised, but
Mine are fur-lined. Mine are fur-lined.
Fur-lined ruby slippers. Oh, wow. Okay. Only you.
They're Converse, actually.
Okay. Oh no, now he's going to go get them to show us the fur-lined ruby slippers. But I haven't had any ruby slippers show up. Oh, there you go. Quite nice. Not quite as sparkly as some of the ones that I've seen in the past, but good. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what a journey looks like and how it goes and where it goes and how many of us do that. And I think that we're all the hero in our own journey, and we do this all the time. We just don't call it that. So we don't call it a hero's journey when we start into first grade. But it is, because we have to learn how to negotiate being away from our parents. We have to negotiate how to get along with kids, other kids. We have to learn reading, letters, all of these different kinds of things, what to do at recess, how to behave, all kinds of things that we need to do. And when we are finished with first grade and ready to go into second grade, we've completed that piece, that hero's journey. We've learned something, and we're not the same person that we were when we started, right? And then we get so blessed, we get to do it again when we go into second grade. And I can remember coming home from school, second grade, and I was just upset. And I was crying, and my mother was going, "What on earth is wrong? How come you're crying on the first day of school?" And I said, "Mother, we have a new class. It's English. I don't know if I'll be any good at it." My mother, in all her wisdom, put her arms around me and she said, "Honey, you have been good at every other class. And there's no reason to think you won't be good at this one too." I mean, I didn't realize English was the language, because that didn't make sense. But there was another challenge, a hurdle for me to conquer, to move on, to go into the next piece. Was there for you a particular grade that was really hard? Other than that one for second grade, other than the first day of school in second grade, the next hard class was maybe seventh or eighth. Seventh, I think. And then the next one was 10. I don't remember the challenges now at those, that going through those, but boy, some of them were really difficult at the time I went through them. And then I did, you may not have done it this way, but I certainly did. I got pregnant when I was a senior in high school. So here I am now, the child really gonna leave home, like on the hero's journey, not having a clue what I'm doing, and yet taking the steps and going forth and doing it. And that particular challenge is in his 50s in South Korea at the moment, looking at a birthday this weekend, actually. So maybe 57, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, old. But that makes me old too. So there we go. It was a piece of learning of a whole different kinds of things than I learned growing up. Are they spiritual? Some of them were, but I didn't classify them that way because I was not looking at them from spiritual angles at that time. I didn't start looking at anything in spiritual angles until I was in my 50s, maybe. Just didn't. Oh, well. That doesn't mean I didn't get out of it. It doesn't mean I didn't learn anything. It doesn't mean I didn't do any spiritual growth, because I did. I wasn't seeing it from that angle at the moment. As I said in the newsletter, one of the things that we did is we built a house out in the country, David and I. And it was awesome. We dug out the earth. We sold our big house. We had a big house in Oklahoma City, 2-story house in Oklahoma City. It was a really good deal. We paid $17,000 for it and sold it for $74,000. And then, yeah, I know, hit the market just right, both ends. And we had it for about 3 years, maybe. And then we bought property outside of the town and just moved into a trailer house to build this house. And we built the house earth bermed, which meant carving out the hill, and it meant pouring a slab and getting the treated wood from someplace in Arkansas and building this house. And then the only piece we had done by somebody else was the roof trusses were made by somebody else. They were delivered and they put them on the roof so that we didn't, because we didn't have a crane. But everything else we did. So we did all the insulation, we did all the sheetrock, we did all the outside exterior of the walls, all of the inside, all the windows. And then we had visqueen windows for quite some time. And I learned all about house building. Now, is that a spiritual thing? Could be. And I really learned a lot. I grew and found it to be fascinating. And I think that we all go through these stages, these bits and pieces, these challenges. Some of them are easier to explain as spiritual journeys than others. The journey going through classes to become a practitioner, that's a spiritual journey. It's one challenge after another, after another, after another, right? One class, one paper, one whatever it is. And the same is going through ministerial school. It's one after another, after another, after another. And you're not the same person at the end of that journey that you were when you started out. You're not the same person at the end of ministerial school, or at the end of your licensing period, or at the end of your, when you finally get your ordination okay, and then you actually go through the ceremony. You're not the same person at the end of it. You're not the same person at the end of a wedding ceremony that you were at the beginning of the wedding ceremony. And that's a really short time frame. And then 5 years or 10 years or whatever the years later, you're still not the same person, because we grow and change each day. I don't know whether the looking at things as a hero's journey makes it easier to think about the rough times, the challenges. If you're just sitting there going, oh, well, maybe this is just one of those challenges on my journey. That may be a way to look at things. On the other hand, if we just go, okay, let's just do this because it's the next thing, it's the next step, we go from there. So a piece of this is looking at your life from the hero's journey aspect of it. The hero, the journey's not over until the hero takes what he's learned and puts it into use. But if we take a minute or 10 or 15 or 30 or more and look at what's gone on in our life or in our day and make use of what we've learned, we can go on a hero's journey every day. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that whatever hero's journey we are supposed to be on, we will be on it. We are on it. We don't, it's like we don't say, oh, today I'm going to start my hero's journey. Well, you can if you want to, but even if you don't say that, you're going to get to if it's the day to start, in my opinion. And of course, Dorothy didn't start. A storm happened. that started her. How many of our heroes' journeys are started by some external force? We lost our job, we got married, we got pregnant. You know, those kinds of things happen. And they lead us down this, I don't know whether it's they're leading us, but they are leading us, it happens that way, down this journey, this path that we might not have chosen. And I don't know that it would be a good thing or a bad thing, but I can't think of anything that I would do differently in this moment than what I have. Except maybe I wouldn't have eaten that last ice cream bar. I don't know.
Oh, but it was so good.
I know. It really, really was.
And it was so pleasurable. And it was just part of your journey.
That's so true. That is so true. I'm not thinking we have to go on a journey to figure out who we are. Because the essence of who we are is always with us. We might need to do the steps to uncover or release whatever it is within us that's blocking our knowledge from that inner knowing. But the inner knowing is always there, of the inner knowing of who we are. It's always there. We can't get away from it. We can obscure it. We can put a curtain over it. We can, you know, put like pulling down the blinds or flipping up so I don't see the dog feet going by. We can cover it up so that we can't see it, but it's always there. So perhaps then our journey is not a journey of going somewhere. It's an inner journey. It's an inner journey. Oh, yay. To figure out what it is that we put in our way so that we can't see the good in our life. That's the inner journey, because the good's there. And we don't have to be a hero to do it. And I think perhaps, as I'm sitting here talking, I think perhaps that as we go through each day we're looking a little bit more clear about who we are, gradually peeling back those blinders that we put on. Maybe not. So what do you guys think?
So,
Well, go ahead, Diane.
okay, thank you. You know, we can put a label on it. I just think life is a journey. Every moment is a journey. And we can call, you know, it would depend upon what we define it. What I heard in this discussion is that, you know, a journey is where you're doing something, you've learned something, and at the end or even during, you're not the same person. So that's every moment of life, in my opinion. So I feel like we are all on a journey, and we are our own heroes. I'll use the word a hero, whereas, you know, we're the ones that, in my opinion, responsible for our life, you know, for what we create and therefore we are our own heroes. Now, we might have others that we look up to, that we would emulate and learn from, and or even maybe pattern behavior. As we mature in life, in our life journey, I think you ultimately find that we are your own hero. You are, you know, and I do, again, truly believe this. When I reflect back on my life, my journey was more outside. It was in my exterior life. You know, it was, you know, yeah, getting all my degrees. It was getting married, and it was, you know, it just seemed a lot more outwardly focused and outwardly striving for supposed accomplishments that society honored from an exterior outward perspective. And then as I matured in life, or grew in life, in my 40s, I started, or even late 30s, mid to late 30s, started my journey to be more inward, you know, where I shifted and I discovered science of mind. And I shifted in realizing, again, you know, really more oneness and more of an inner journey than this exterior journey. And I remember at about that same time, when I was still in corporate America, I really started thinking differently about my team and or the folks that worked for me, where I was in service to them instead of them in service to me. So there were just different kinds of shifts. But I honestly believe life is a journey. I recall how when I was down in Guatemala some time ago at their visitor center, when we flew in and landed at whatever airport it was, the visitor center had marketing brochures, and they had this statement that when was the last time you did something for the first time? So when was the last time you did something for the first time? And I've always tried to challenge myself to do something quite frequently, not always daily, do something for the first time, which is a journey, an opportunity to learn something, an opportunity to improve yourself, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
And
baby
you've
steps.
done-
Yeah.
Right, you've done something for the first time, you've learned something, and you're not the same person. So
Right.
I just think it's life, and it
Mhm.
shifts. So those were my thoughts.
Cool.
I want to tag on that just a minute. So it's good that you spoke first. There's a phrase in some spiritual circles that says, we're the ones we've been waiting for. So we're the one, and what's inside of us that really has come here to, once we discover what's inside of us, then that was really the healing, and to not keep looking for something outside of us.
Mhm.
It's interesting, the references to Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, because I did my little talk Tuesday at Toastmasters and put Dorothy's journey in my talk, and it's just the coincidences or synchronicities, whatever it is. You mentioned Dorothy and the red slippers tonight, and I'm stunned at the number of times that something about the Wizard of Oz has come up in the last 5 days. And even and TV commercials right now are singing the song, the Munchkin song. And I don't know what's going on with that, but I just got to say that for a minute. It's kind of weird. But Dorothy and her slippers, like, when was the first, when did we receive our ruby slippers? Dorothy wore them, but really didn't understand the significance of them fully. And so until Glenda at the last minute says, tap, you've always had those and those slippers, and just tap them together 3 times and state your intention. in your heart, and then you'll go home. And so I think the vision I have is that I think we carry our ruby slippers in our backpack with us all the time, no matter where we go. And then it's a matter of when we reach each level of our next step, that next higher step, we may put them on for a few minutes and do a little dance, and then we decide what the next part of the journey is, what's the next leg of the journey, and then we'll put them away for a while and not get them dirty. I mean, that kind of popped in my head as you were talking about them, because if there's 12, and I've never read the hero's journey. I put that in my little writing. I mean, I know what it is, and it comes up a lot in conversation, and even some classes. I have never resonated with it enough to read it. I know other people have lived it moment by moment. So, but just as you say, there's 12 segments to it. So, you know, I can look at that, and, you know, 12 is kind of a spiritual number, actually. Interesting when you said that. And so we can have these 12 major cycles in our life, which some card readings will tell you that. And so each of those 12 segments, you can get your ruby shoes out for a little celebration and put it back on again. But I love the way that you've brought this up tonight, and how you've not just read what it is, but kind of integrated, you know, parts of even your life. And I can look at my life and see how I've done each of that. There's been big moments and small moments, but it's interesting that the significance of each moment, no matter what size it was just as valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to me. Sometimes the significant moments are those that come out of the blue. You don't expect to have a significant moment in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
but they happen anyway. You know?
Yeah. Oh, and the hardest grade for me, I don't remember what grade it was, but it was the year I had to take algebra and go to summer school because I couldn't get through algebra.
Okay.
There you go.
I took algebra in 9th grade, but that's not everybody does that. So,
Well, 9th or 10th for me. I don't remember when it was.
yeah.
Anyway,
Year
there you
was
go.
9th also. It was 9th for me for algebra. 7th grade was a hard time also, because for us it was jumping from grade school to middle school.
Right.
6th grade was still in grade school.
Yes, mine was too.
So lots of thoughts going on with what everybody's been saying. And the one thing, and I wrote about it in my article in the newsletter, was because home for me has taken on so many different connotations.
Mm-hmm.
And every day is a journey. I'm never the same person that I woke up as.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much for me the journey, it's what represents home wherever I am in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
The journey is just part of the process. And even when we don't realize in the moment that something is going on, it's still spiritually controlled. No matter how we want to define it or redefine it, it's still a spiritual aspect of our lives, because we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
So for myself, home is where I have my heart, and my heart is always with me. So I infuse every place I've ever lived, any place that I've ever laid my head, even if it's only for a night or two in a hotel, I'm there. So that's home.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is where my heart is, and my heart starts within myself. So the journey takes me wherever I may go, but my heart is what creates the connotation or the feeling of home, regardless of what the environment is surrounding me. I've been I've been in homes the size of a hotel room that I called an apartment for years in New York City. And I've been in very large, huge homes that I just kind of rambled around in and just had all the room in the world. And they both were equally wonderful. So truly for me, home is that aspect of what we create. And just like you're saying, the hero's journey, we are our own home. We have to create our own home. We are our own heroes. No one else can be a hero for us. Um, we ultimately are our own worst enemy or best friend,
Both at the same
and
time.
sometimes both at the same time. Yes. And the most important thing is to remember that we have the power within us always to create by choice first and by thought and choice first what we are going to have for our home and for our experience. We may not call a specific experience upon ourselves knowingly or willingly, but when they show up, we have the ability to choose how we're going to react or not react to them. So that all came into play for me around the topic of homes and being at home. And now with what you were saying, a hero's journey, because we truly are. And even if you take out the word hero and put in, we are the producers or directors of our own theatrical life that we're leading. And we get to choose and pick and choose who's going to be on the stage with us at any given time just by our own doing. People underestimate how valuable their own power is, or how valuable their own time is worth. But I guess that's about it.
Okay. Katie, do you want to add anything to this?
Just ever so briefly, because Lynn had said a beautiful quote that really, really emphasized what I was going to say. But I just see the hero's journey as being a greater coming home to ourselves and who we really are.
Mm-hmm. I think it is. And I think we can come home in a big way, or we can come home a step at a time, a little bit at a time. It's the prodigal son is another hero's journey story about leaving home and having adventures and learning and then coming back. And of course, Jesus is this another hero's journey story. And the Buddha is one as well. There are lots of them, of the stories out there. And we can use them as examples, or we can just move forward, or maybe we can just move forward and do our own thing and learn from what it is we are going through. And I think that's actually probably the most valuable, because while I can look at somebody else's things that they have done, that doesn't necessarily resonate with me in the moment, or it resonates here, but not here. And so I'm then still having to move this piece into alignment to go with whatever it is I'm learning. And being able to, I don't know that I need to know how to express it, though I suspect if I could express it adequately, I could probably write a book and make millions. But I don't know that I need to know that, because what I need to know is that I am doing it, that it is done, rather than how to express it. If I'm supposed to write the book that makes millions, it'll come out of my mouth or my hands or my, keyboard, whatever it is. And maybe that's yours to do. I don't know. Just saying. I think my task is to absolutely know who I am. And to me, that's the end celebration of the hero's journey.
I have a comment. You just sparked a thought. Bill Murray did a very serious movie years ago, and I've forgotten the title of it because it had such an impact on me. Because he's always been the comedy guy, but every now and then he'll throw out something real serious that's kind of a real grabber. And he was having a rough time with life, and he decides to get away from everybody. He goes off into the war. I think it's like World War I or something. It's back in that era, and he goes to war and he comes back. He's having a tough time, and he decides to get away from everybody and to get away from life. And he goes up like in the mountains, and he makes a little home for himself up in the mountains. And he's studying and he's reading all these wisdom books, and he's all by himself and for a very long time. And then there's a scene where he just decides he's reading, I don't know, about Buddha or something very, esoterical like that. And he says, anybody can be perfect on top of a mountain, something like that, makes that comment. And he closes the book and he takes his little home apart and goes back down into the world. And so, he has this struggle in his life, tries to find something that makes it meaningful, like going to war, then comes back and has a different struggle, and then decides to leave it all. And maybe that's the only way to really find himself. But what he finds is that when you're all by yourself and there's no interaction, there is no life. And then comes back down into the world with all of his friends, and then begins to develop relationships. And I think if I remember this, the one girl that he wants to have a relationship then leaves, and he realizes that he was really okay as he was. I have to find the title of that again. I'll look it up while somebody's talking. But this, what you just said, sparked that. And because we can all go off on our journey and find ourselves just perfect but there's no interaction. But it's when we interact and go through all those experiences as we bounce off of each other and the trauma and things about life, that's when we really find out what we are and what we have, I think.
Well, and Jesus went off into the desert to figure out who he was for a while, stayed there, but came back.
Yep.
It would be a whole different story if he just stayed in the desert.
That's true. That's very true.
We certainly grow through relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And there's, so many different types of relationships in life.
Mm-hmm.
They're beautiful. Sometimes they can be hard. Your intimate relationship, right, is beautiful and sometimes can be hard. Your professional relationships, your friend relationships, your neighborhoods. We grow through all of that interaction.
Yep. Our kids.
Right. Yeah. Oh, wow. Although, sometimes I have to step away. I do, to rejuvenate. So it's a balance. It's a balance.
It is. I think
Yeah.
it made it a whole lot easier when I realized that I was an introvert. Because then I could justify the fact that I needed to be away. And even if it was just away for an afternoon, it was like, okay, I need this. I need this time.
And I think that's just fine. You know, some people need more time than others, right?
And
But
some people need more people than others.
they do. My baby brother, he's like this incredible gregarious dude. He's got to be around somebody all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
That movie, Kevin found the title of the movie before I did. It was The Razor's Edge, but it was from 1984, but it's worth a watch. Thanks.
Cool.
So something Lynn said resonated, and Suellen, you've heard me with this one before. From the Bill Murray movie, and I haven't seen it, so that has nothing to do with what I'm saying. But it's easy to do something when you're surrounded by the people that you grew up with sometimes, but then in other times it's harder to do that. I couldn't be who I wanted to be and live the life that I needed and that I was supposed to live by staying where I grew up.
Right.
And now that place to me is just completely foreign and unappealing. I would never go back to where I grew up. Great memories of it, and growing up was great there at that time, but I couldn't go back. So it's not in any way or shape, it doesn't represent home to me. And I don't pine for going back to that because it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
And then the counterpoint to that thought of that was when I was when I was first starting out as a practitioner, it was easy to be in a community where there was a community and where there was a working, operating center for spiritual living, and you had other practitioners around you, because there was always somebody there that if you didn't want to do something, it picked up the slack. There was no drive for doing it yourself because there was nobody else there. When I moved to Idaho, I found that for myself, I was on my own. There's a center there, but it didn't work, and just didn't work for me to be a part of it. And so I was a practitioner, just kind of blowing in the wind, if you will. And maintaining and being a practitioner and doing your practice when you don't have that kind of community actually made me stronger and find my home space within myself to resonate out from, because I didn't have, I always had Suellen, but I didn't have anybody that was physically nearby to run to, or I had to step up and just do it, much like Suellen had to do when at her tender early age all of a sudden was a mother. It's like, oh, now it's on me, and the responsibility level kicks in, and you're like, okay, so how am I going to make this work, and how is this going to look, and how is this going to be my creative outcome as opposed to what other people may say or think that I should be doing or not doing. If that makes sense. So I was told many times I would fail when I moved to New York City from Idaho when I was 20 years old. And 10 years later, it took 10 years for me to decide to leave. So I don't think that was exactly failing. But I don't think a lot of the people that wanted me to fail were just the ones that were too scared to ever set out on their own. Because the same people that said that or thought that of me never left the state of Idaho.
Yeah.
So, everybody's got their own path. And that journey is what creates our homes wherever we are. But anyway. It's a good conversation, good topic, brings up a lot of stuff. Different angles for everybody.
Yeah. And we could get off into, good things about growing up, about home, what that feels like, what that smells like. It's like traditions. We're coming into the holidays, so we have home traditions, and it's kind of an interesting piece. So,
Well, I have a cousin who just is pining desperately for what she used to have when she was younger from her father's side of the family's, not mine, grandmother. And she just wants to be able to go back to the farm and all that, and it's not there anymore.
mhm.
And I have a hard time sometimes knowing what to say to her when she brings that up, because I'm like, you can't go back.
Mhm.
You can't. You can hold the memories and create the now with some aspects of those traditions, but you can't go back to that farm.
Mhm.
The thing that was there, that energy and everything that was there when you were younger, is not there anymore. So they say you can always go home, and that's true, depending on where you choose to make your home.
Yes, but
And
I think from this that your home is in your heart.
exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
you can make this room, whatever this room is, if you're in the citizen center in a room, that can be your home.
Yep.
You know, it can
Exactly.
be.
You can always go home, but that's not connotations of going back to where you grew up necessarily.
Right. Right. Because your home is different too, because it's changed while you were off changing.
Hmm.
You know, how many people have gone to war and come back, and they may be they've been changed by the war, but the people around them were changed. In my own example, my mom and dad moved us to Topeka, and the first year that we were there, dad was home all the time, and then he got a job. The company got a job that required him to travel. So he would travel and be gone Monday through Friday, come home Friday evening, usually late, be home Saturday and Sunday, and Monday morning he would drive back to wherever it was. Now, in those days, we were talking a 2-hour drive to the new job site, where nowadays a 2-hour drive is hardly anything. We don't think anything about it at all. But in those days, it was a huge thing to go a 2-hour drive to work. What happened was mom was left with all of the responsibility on Monday through Friday. And dad would waltz in on Friday night, expect to take back over the reins of the relationship for 2 days, and then disappear again. Now, remembering that these are enough years ago, 60 plus, that male and female relationships were not anywhere near as balanced as they are today. So, needless to say, after several years, and they finally moved back to Salina to live together, they can't do it because of his need to be in control all the time, and he'd given that power to her by being gone by default, and she wasn't willing to let it go back. What she did was drank instead. I mean, she didn't feel like she had an opportunity to do anything else. So when he took the control back by being there all the time, she felt her only choice was to drink. So, as you shift, home shifts because things happen. Was it a good thing? Long term? Probably. I mean, I don't think they would be the same people they were if they hadn't gone through that. Was it rocky? Oh my gosh, yes, for all of us. For all of us. No.
What's funny also is sometimes when we go away and then we go back, in some cases, when we go back, we have changed, but nothing that we go back to has changed. It's like
It
stuck in
appears.
time.
Yeah, it
And
appears
it's
to be
like,
second time.
nothing has grown, nothing has changed. I mean, the physical stuff may have changed and shifted, but otherwise the mentality a lot of times, or it's like it's stuck in this like little time warp.
Mhm.
And that's where the push away from it being home anymore, wherever we were, doesn't always work.
Right, true.
Because it's almost like we have to devolve to go back.
Hmm.
And most people aren't willing to do that.
It's true.
When you've got on your journey and you've gotten so much higher than where you were, and you've
Mhm.
changed that much, people don't want to go backwards. Like your mom, she didn't want to give up that power that she'd had for so long.
But
which
she
was
didn't feel like she had any choice about it.
right,
So she took
right,
a different way out.
exactly.
So very interesting. Home, where the heart is. And it's an inner journey to get there, always. Okay, we're almost out of time. So I'm going to say that you should think about donation time. So if you are wanting to donate to Inner Journey to help us keep this up and going and Thrive continuing, the phone number is 405-337-9739. And the word for today is grace. Does anybody have any last comments before I pray us out?
Oh, is the meeting on Thursday the 10th
Annual meeting.
but is it for everyone or just the board?
It's everyone.
Okay.
It's not for, it's for practitioners.
Right.
Um,
I wasn't sure if it was like the whole group or if it was just one of our other meetings.
Yep, no, it's not just the council. Okay. Any other comments? All right, so take a breath. Oh, I love this part about breathing. I do it all the time. Yay. And sometimes I do it mindfully, like right now, taking a breath. There's only God, and God is right now, right here in us, through us, as us, expressing joyfully as we move throughout our week, the rest of our week, and hopefully see each other back next week on Thursday night for the annual meeting, knowing that it is good and very good and everything unfolds perfectly. And we are much more aware of our sense of home, what that is, and who we are. And it feels so good. And I'm so grateful for the law that says yes, knowing it is done and complete. And I release this prayer into the law that says yes. And so it is.
So it is.
You got a spam call right there at the end.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Okay, let me stop recording. Okay.
It's good